Good evening, Californians. It's April 5th, 2022. This is Season 2, Podcast number 10, and we are Red Star Report. This is Hal G. Lohr with Voices for the California Nation. Last week, America's shameless version of an April Fool's joke was brought to you by the Rube State Village Idiots in the United States Senate. Californians got to watch senators from former slave states interrogated and generally offended an immensely overqualified Ketanji Brown Jackson in her Supreme Court nomination hearing. And although Judge Brown's marathon roasting had all the predictable non-sequitur partisan gotcha questions that lasted day after day after day, it still managed to have all the American traditions of barely veiled racism, Christo-fascist superstition, and an absolute fear and hatred of the LGBTQ community. But, always thinking of our viewers, we here at Red Star Report realize that pouring through hours of political speeches is not how many of you would choose to waste your time, so we thought we might just give you a little peek just to the general tone.
In the name of progressivism.
You reference the work of, quote, acclaimed investigative journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones. Provocative thesis that the America that was born in 1776 was not the perfect union that it purported to be.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how faithful would you say you are?
When does life begin, in your opinion?
The U.S. is a fundamentally racist country. Is it your personal hidden agenda to incorporate critical race theory into our legal system?
It's a very hot topic today. Of a transgender woman to compete in women's sports.
Would you find that offensive? I would if I were you.
There you go. Your donor state tax dollars at work. Because all it really does take to make the case for California independence is 60 seconds of video showing the real words of our actual elected U.S. representatives. Oh, and I could also ask a question that goes, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is a fine choice for the Supreme Court, but why are there no sitting California Supreme Court justices? But I'm sure you already know the answer to that. Something to do with representation? Right. This is Voices for the California Nation. Moving on tonight, we have part 2 of our discussion of the book Union de las Californias by Baja California independence activist, author, and well-known journalist Cuauhtemoc Morgan. And that starts right now.
So yeah, we have the resistance of the peninsula both to U.S. annexation and to try to interfere in the Gulf, which is considered internal Mexican waters. Now let's flip the coin. You're also in MIBC, ¿verdad? The Movement for the Independence of Baja California. So if you could just briefly tell our listeners the differences that have come up between the peninsula and the Mexican mainland.
Yes, I think that I found also an explanation for this political phenomena that starts in 1912. Also in the state of California, at the same time, with independence movements in California and then in Baja California, mainly in the city of Tijuana, where this movement starts through the Facebook and grow as a phenomena in a very short period of time to captivate many people with this idea of the independence movement that take all the peninsula as a new, to convert it in a new country, because the possibilities for the Baja Peninsula to survive without without Mexico are totally supported by the natural resources, the economic growth, and also the inversions, the people, the industry, and we have enough possibilities to be a new country in all the concert of nations in the world.
Yes, we feel the same way in Alta. We are now experiencing multiple crises because of these oligarchs. We have the information oligarchs here in Silicon Valley that are censoring our ability to read the world's press, to trap us in a US propaganda bubble. We have, of course, the oligarchs. And so we're paying astronomical amounts, which have nothing to do with the lack of Russian oil. They just saw an opportunity to hijack the pumps. We have the real estate oligarchs that have created the homeless crisis by continuing to consolidate real estate holdings into the hands of a few oligarchs and then turn around and increase rents. And of course, the military industrial oligarchs that are trying to push this into a horrible war. And a lot of Californians in Alta are saying, basta ya, enough already. We want out. Same like you want out. So I think the title of your book, Unión de las Californias, speaks to us, because we were one country at one time.
Yes, I choose that title because California, the state where you live, is right now as a big magnet that in one moment will absorb or will annex this peninsula and call form the richest region in the world. And let me read you a newspaper of Rosarito that published this. Tycoons of California are investing in the real estate in all the peninsula of Baja California. And that is a declaration of Gustavo Torres of the Mexican Association of Professionals in Real Estate.
Mm-hmm.
The most richest or wellness investors of California are acquiring properties here in the peninsula how you say, when you buy a property and has a range of inversion is $20 million, That's
Mhm.
the price that they are paying for properties here in the peninsula, the whole
Mhm.
peninsula, all the beaches of the peninsula are being selling to the richest people of the state of California. That's a reality. That's a big phenomena, and we are not prepared for that, Matt. We are just viewing how all the the beach properties, all the houses and through the seashore are sold to people that comes to California State, and are making this a new home, and that uh, is an explosion for the real estate because the prices of the properties are overvalued, and in a near future we can acquire a home here because the price will be the highest in the history, and maybe we can face a phenomena as yeah, or the word you are saying,
Mm.
the people can acquire a home and we have to live as a homeless phenomena, or face of homeless phenomena in the main cities of the peninsula.
As we have here, those same oligarchs are buying it up in Alta. That's why we have such huge homeless encampments here in Alta. Something I want to, make clear for our listeners is that it was the call to reunify our country came from Baja. It's not a matter of Alta annexing Baja as a U.S. state, which you would resist. It's a matter of you seeing us and we seeing you both wanting the same thing, the independence of our country. So for
Yes,
us, your suggestion that we reunify makes perfect sense.
yes, I think that will happen in maybe 20, 30 years or 15 years, 50 years. So the native people, the local people, we haven't see the what is happening with this gentrification phenomena, and we are losing our cultural origins as local natives people, and because the history of Baja California is swept from the books in the schools. We don't have nothing in the school books about the history of Baja California, and we are uh, maybe uh, on unconsciously accepting this gentrification phenomena, and that is what I the motivated to me to write this book, because we are vanishing all the our cultural origin, all the values that identifies us as residents residents of this peninsula here in Los Cabos and La Paz, and Mexicali, Tijuana, Rosarito. Uh, we are just one nation, or we can be considered one culture of the northwest Mexico. So we are losing that values that identifies us as residents or natives of this peninsula.
In the schools here in Alta, they lie about our history too. Okay. They don't talk about the period in which we were all in the same Mexican territory. And a year before this flag behind me was hoisted in 1836 and 1835, our common governor, Jose Figueroa, wrote a book in which he defended the return of the mission lands, which were secularized under Mexican law a few years prior, to those from whom they had been stolen. Because the other parties that he was arguing with in his book, first president in California, Monterrey, they wanted to claim the land for themselves. And he goes, well, okay, fine. But first, we have to return land to those from whom it was stolen. That's what the book's about. Okay, it's the dispute between Governor Figueroa and these two gentlemen who came up from, Capitolinos, I think. So they lie about that. They lie about the so-called bear flaggers. They were the William Walkers of Alta California.
And many
Okay.
Californians ignore why our big sea is called the Gulf of California, because they say why the Gulf of California is in the besides the peninsula. See, if the Gulf of California must be a property of our state of California, and that's not true. The Gulf of California is called because historically, here is the origin of the name of California, the peninsula.
Mhm.
That's they are called. If you see on all the promotion that that is made in the United States, in America, refers to the Gulf of California as Sea of Cortez.
Mar de
They
Cortez.
never use anymore Gulf of California. They call just Sea of Cortez, because John Steinbeck, I don't know why, but they are using constantly the name Sea of Cortez to identify this part of that divides the peninsula of Mexico.
Mhm.
And that's a part of this big phenomena that I'm talking and I touching in this book. This is the Gulf of California. We must fight for the name, not the Sea of Cortez. It's the Gulf of California because the peninsula is originally named California.
Just as here, otro lado, we are a region of a larger country. We are Alta California. We're only half of the country. Okay, and a country that was there before the Yankees got hold of it, after the annexation of Baja California by the U.S., not only did they divide it into a state territory along Lake Tahoe, but they moved the capital a few times. First, they didn't want it to stay where it was at because, it's full of Californios. That's the capital. So they moved it here to San Jose, which is, a really Californian town at the time, too. So they're, surrounded, these colonizers surrounded by people who weren't their friends. So they moved it to this little place on the East Bay I've been to, right? And that's where it was when something called the Gold Rush happened. And then they moved it from there to Sacramento. You look at Sacramento and you look at the gold fields, you understand why. It was a headquarters in Sacramento, the genocide carried out against the indigenous people on whose land the gold fields sat. That's why the capital is in Sacramento. So, all this history, the tragedies, the complexity, they don't talk about in the schools here in Alta any more than they do in Baja. They erase our history on both sides. And so we're rediscovering it. That's how I rediscovered this. That we had a flag before the bear flag, which represented our common independence. Okay.
Yes.
And it's slowly gaining acceptance in our independence movement. All three states have this as their, you look at the three state flags, and they have this as their direct predecessor. This was our first flag.
The star is the first flag of the Californian people. That star. And well, Matt, I want to make an invitation to all the people that see this video to buy my book that is here, Union of the California. It's sold through Amazon. You can find it in Amazon. And also, I will make some presentation here in Los Cabos, La Paz, and maybe in April or May in Tijuana, Ensenada, and Mexicali. It's redacted totally in Spanish, but I will find the way to translate it in English. So I think there are many topics that will interest to the people the English spoken language people that lives in California, that they will find in this book that I presenting. I finished it in November, December, and it's available from December or January in Amazon. And maybe if I work the most I can, maybe at the end of this year of 2022, will be in English, available also in Amazon. And this is the origin of the Cal exit. That's because I put San Francisco Bridge and the peninsula as one region that maybe in the near future will be reunified.
Mhm.
And I explain why could have happened that phenomenon.
And the more the two federal governments, keep doing what they're doing and do more of it, the
Yes,
more urgent our liberation and reunification becomes. Yeah.
it could be. It could be. They make
Yeah.
a lot of mistakes, and that will be part of the a big motivation to look for a reunification of both Californias, or three Californias.
Yes,
So,
Gran
Matt,
California.
I want to thank you for this interview, for this conversation, and excuse me by my limitation with the English language. I'm practicing all days, but I hope to be more prepared when I have the English edition of my book to present it also for the people of California in the own in totally in English.
Creo que su inglés es mejor que mi español.
Thank you, Matt, and for this conversation.
Muchísimas gracias. Viva Gran California Libre.
Viva Gran California.
That was Red Star Rising with Matt Owen with the book Union de los Californios by Cuauhtemoc Morgan. This book is available on Amazon. For our final segment tonight, Activism in Action with Shankar Singam brings you part 2 of his interview with longtime activist and now Long Beach City Council District 7 candidate Carlos Ovalle. Take it away, Shankar.
Talked about our good friend Maria Estrada. She she lost by I think 4 or 5%. She only raised about maybe I think less than $10,000, and she was going up against Brendan with over $100,000 treasure chest, and she almost beat him. And that's because she was loud in his face, in front of his office, yelling, bullhorning, and people knew who she was. And I'm wondering if you were going to think about the same approach. Or were you maybe thinking about just sticking with the issues, and going door to door and just having people know you? I mean, what do you think? Which do you think would be more effective, or what's your plan?
So, in answer to the question of what my style of campaigning will be, I'm not so much an in-your-face kind of person, activist. I'm not about standing in front of someone and yelling at them with a bullhorn. That's not quite my style. But I do it in a little bit different style. So I was explaining to you before about at the height of the pandemic, when all of us were going through great lengths to wearing masks and disinfecting our hands constantly, etc. And then on the other hand, we had our elected officials, appointed officials, or hired, city staff behaving hypocritically. So they would talk the talk, but they wouldn't walk the walk. And so they were wearing masks below their nose, or simply not wearing masks except for photo opportunities. The biggest instance of this was when the chief of police held a super spreader event. I think it was the only one in the U.S. that the super spreader event that was generated by a municipality. And in this case, there were 300 police officers who were not wearing masks, standing in a closed environment, shoulder to shoulder. And when it came to the photo opportunity, they put on their masks. But in the meantime, there were other photographs that were taken privately by some of the police officers who then shared it with the media. Police officers who in this case, good police officers who didn't, really appreciate what was going on in their department. And so the photographs were shared. They were published in the media, and it was kind of forgotten. I didn't want to let it be forgotten. So I launched an official complaint with the Citizens Police Complaint Commission. And as a result of that, a lengthy investigation resulted in the police chief getting charged with conduct on becoming an officer. But through machinations of the city manager who runs the Citizens Police Complaint Commission, city manager has the authority to act or not act on the basis of a ruling by the police commission. So in this case, he held on to their ruling and he let time go, and I kept sending emails. What are we going to do about it? What are the results of the investigation, etc. And then all of a sudden, I get an email and it says, "Oopsie, we didn't get to it in time, and the statute of limitations passed, and now the police chief retired, and too bad, and that's where it ended." Instead, we have the police chief now running one of the contenders against Sheriff Villanueva for LA County Sheriff. So the news of that complaint that I filed, along with the Long Beach Reform Coalition, an organization that I helped co-found back in 2018, the news of that, it made headlines around the world. So New York Times, Washington Post, and papers from literally all over the world. So Australia, South Africa, England, everywhere.
Are you hoping to maybe create those same headlines, not just for your campaign, but while you're campaigning? Just to
if something comes up, I definitely, I'm not going to let anything slide.
Good.
I mean, there are so many things happening in the city right now. So, for example, our city auditor was caught funneling money to her, I guess, ex-business partner. That made headlines, and now they're working the city hired an independent auditor to look at what she had done, and he said, don't worry your pretty little head about it, and they basically did a whitewash kind of investigation. I looked at it, and it's clearly whitewashed. They didn't, it's like, somebody is sweeping dirt under the rug, but you don't lift the rug. You say, well, I don't see the dirt, so therefore there must be no dirt. But the dirt is there under the rug, and so they didn't look at it. Myself and a few others, activists in the city, are going to take a look at that. And why that's important to my campaign? Well, everything that happens in the city is ultimately falls on the lap of the legislators. So in this case, the council members. And, people think, oh, well, you're the council member. Can I ask you about how to fix my sidewalk or patch that hole in the street? Well, that's important stuff. But the major decisions that we make affect city finances. Things like the Queen Mary boondoggle, which is going to cost us upwards of $500 million. My kids are going to be paying for it. My grandkids are going to be paying for it. Things like the Civic Center, which is another half $500 million, and who knows where that's going to go. But there's rumors about the finances not working out on this public-private partnership, and and it just goes on. And our legislators are asleep at the wheel. That includes the incumbent and the incumbents, or in some cases former council members in other races, and of course it goes all the way up to the mayor. Okay. So yeah, I will be bringing up all kinds of things during my campaign.
Carlos, don't just lift the rug, tear it off and toss it out.
Absolutely,
and expose it all, and be known for that. And no matter what, even if you win, if you lose, you win, because you expose all of this. Even if you lose, you win. We all win if that happens. So that would be my take on it. I wish you the best luck. Where can we get a hold of? How can we donate to your campaign? Where can we find out information on what's happening with your campaign?
Yeah, so you can look at Facebook. I'm under my name. There's actually two accounts. My personal account, which is where I've been doing most of my politicking, is Carlos, and then my middle initial S, and then my last name Ovalle, Ovalle. But there's also a second account that I created just for my campaign, which I've just starting to populate now, and that is just my first and last name, Carlos Ovalle. So you'll see the difference, because my campaign one is me and my dogs. So you probably know why I'm there with my dogs, because I love them. They're part of my family.
Exactly. And make that known. Make that known that you're an animal lover. I mean, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. That's the way you've got to play it with these guys. Carlos, you were mentioning that you call the area you live in the diesel death quarter. I know about the amount of pollution in the air and in the water here. Why don't you explain why it's called the diesel death quarter in Long Beach?
So this is called the diesel death quarter, owing to the number of diesel trucks that travel along the 710 freeway to and from the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. And so we get all this particulate matter from the diesel. We also get dust blowing over from the petroleum coke facilities. Petroleum coke is a byproduct of the refining process. That it's basically like a black talcum powder. It's a fuel so dirty that it can't be burned in the U.S. We also export coal. Together, coal and petroleum coke are the biggest exports from the port. Mr. Uranga and the rest of City Council voted against the advice and wishes and protestations of every single community group and environmental group in all of California, including the Sierra Club, the National Resources Defense Council, etc., and voted to continue those exports. So they talk about climate change, they talk about global warming, they talk about making a greener city, and yet they do all this other stuff. I mean, we get more. It goes above and beyond that. We've got one of the last municipal incinerators in California. We have two refineries in the vicinity, including the Valero refinery that use a chemical called MHF, that is such a it's a bomb waiting to happen. For the audience members that might recall that far back, there was an incident in the city of Bhopal in India with the Union Carbide plant where there was a leak, a gas leak, and it was a low-lying cloud that came and basically wiped out like the majority of the city. The same thing can happen with MHF. A hole in the tank, in one of their holding tanks, can leak out enough gas to basically wipe out my entire district. My entire district is within the 5-mile kill zone for MHF. What do our elected representatives do about any of these issues? They voted for the export of petroleum coke and coal. They are completely silent on the issue of MHF. They're just now getting around to considering the decommissioning of the SURF facility, RFF. That's the municipal incinerator, and then of course Mr. Uranga is a member of the Coastal Commission, one of the commissioners with probably the worst environmentalism record. I mean, for God's sake, the Coastal Commission is intended to protect the citizens along the coast, and he has tended to vote for with the developers, with the oil interests. Just recently, he moved to allow the drilling of 120 new oil wells, in the Los Cerritos wetlands, one of our most environmentally sensitive area of Long Beach, and he votes to allow that. It's that's a horrible thing, and they're basically playing with our lives. I mean, all of us who, it's called a diesel death corridor because we have a 5 to 15 year shorter life expectancy than the eastern side of Long Beach. We're this area is called the forgotten west side, but really affecting us directly. In my immediate family, we have and this is my parents who both passed away, and my brothers. We have breast cancer, kidney cancer, brain cancer, leukemia, prostate cancer, neurological disorders, endocrinology disorders, pulmonary fibrosis, all of this kind of stuff, asthma. I suffer from a lot of that, and example of what the diesel death corridor means. It's not just an academic issue with me. It's not just something that I read in the books about the statistics. Okay, how many, what is our incidence of cancer? What is our incidence of asthma in this area? I live it, and I don't want my kids to live it. I don't want your kids to live it. I want to put an end to it, which is why my campaign isn't accepting a single dollar from the oil industry, like Mr. Uranga's campaign does, or from developers, or from any of the other things that we consider parts of systemic racism, because that really is what it is. Environmental injustice is part of systemic racism.
Thank you, Mr. Ovalle. Yes, very familiar with the pollution in not only just Long Beach, but all in the surrounding cities as well. Thank you again for coming on here. Do you have how can we get a hold of you? Where can we get your information about your campaign? Do you have a website, or do you have a Facebook or anything that you would like to?
Yes. So other than my Facebook page, which is just my first and last name, Carlos Ovalle, or my personal Facebook page, the same thing, but with my middle initial, Carlos S. Ovalle. My website is carlos4council.org, for the numeral 4, Carlos numeral 4 council.org. You can also reach me via email, and I respond to every email I get, and it's carlos4council@gmail.com. And my website isn't active right now, but it should be active this weekend.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Carlos. Good luck on the campaign trail. I'll be right there supporting you as sure as the rest of Red Star Report will too as well. Thank you once again. Hal, back to you.
Thank you, Shankar. That was Activism in Action with an interview with Long Beach City Council District 7 candidate Carlos Ovalle. For more information on Carlos Ovalle and his run for Long Beach City Council, Red Star Report suggests you find him at Carlos S. Ovalle on Facebook. Ovalle is Ovalle. That's Red Star Report for April 5th, 2022. Please check out our website at www.redstarreport.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Red Star Report. Go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Just go check it out. Because if you want a real California independence movement media group, it's all about the algorithms. Our thanks to you and all our Red Star Rebels for watching, and we will see you next week. We are Red Star Report.